Hey, this is Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com. Today is Friday, November the 2nd. I'm going to make this one quick today. This one was fairly straightforward, followed all the rules precisely as you would expect, and no real surprises here. You can see we had this downsloping trend channel during the day. Got tongue-tied there, excuse me. And all your entries were right off that trend line, which was not too hard to find right out of the gate. I marked a few extra trades here. I believe the first trade, let me see where actually, no, the market was open by the time that one. I was thinking that one triggered before the market opened, but doesn't look like it did, so I take that back. I didn't get here till just a little bit after 8:30, so this was the first trade I actually took, but there's a setup right there as well. So we'll talk about all of them, but you had your trend down. You got a little break of that trend channel line right here. Then we went into this range. You had a couple of entries here. The bias is down, so you got to be careful buying. There's some buys in here, but I didn't mark them because this was, this is a downtrend. So the odds are we're going to fail out the top and break out the lower end. That's the bias. Doesn't always happen that way, but that's what you expect to happen more time. And that's what happened today. We actually failed out that high side twice. Finally, just after lunchtime, we broke on through. And then what you got to be thinking is, let's just see how close we came. You got to be thinking, there's the low really before we went into the range. So now you got to be thinking a measured leg similar to that out the other side. And you can see we actually went lower than that, and that's just because the market was so weak. But your target should have been right in here somewhere at a minimum. At least that's what you should have been looking for. So really straightforward. It's hard to trust. The problem that people have is it's hard to trust this stuff. But I tell you, I watch it every day. And even for me, sometimes it's hard to trust it, but you got to learn to trust this stuff. And it seems to follow through the majority of the time, and every now and then you'll get fooled. But if you just follow the rules and remember all your best trades in a downtrend, if the trend is down, you only want to sell, and you're going to sell, pullbacks to the trend line that set up a nice trade. And we'll talk about each trade. And then once you go into a range, you can buy or sell either side. So you could have bought either side here. None of them would have failed except for this one, and there's no real setup there. So, even if you bought them blindly, they would have all worked except that one right there. It's the only one that would have failed. All these others would have worked for you. But anyway, because the bias is down, you're better off just to sell the high side, and you had two opportunities there, and they were, fairly straightforward. Failed breaks out of the top, and then eventually the trend reasserted itself, and down we went. And again, I've talked about this before. Just because you get a trend line break and two legs down, there's leg one, leg two, and then we had a correction, or I would call this a correction that lasted for an hour or more, and then the trend reasserted itself. And you got this correction that started at about a little before 10 o'clock, and well, let me just put this on there. Correction started at about 10 o'clock, and it ended at about noon. So that's almost 2 hours of correction time, and then the trend reasserted itself, and that meets our criteria. So, but let's talk about the trades. I want to make this quick today. My son has a ball game out of town, about 2 hours away again, and so I want to get out here a little bit early, so I'm going to wrap this up. But you had your first trade right here. You got a nice second entry short. You really went up. You failed. You get really more than anything, you got a failed second entry long that triggered a short right there. No long-term runners, but an easy scalp. Then you got another chance to get in here. Again, no big runners, but it was an easy scalp. Then you had a setup right here. This one was a little more suspect because you got all the overlapping bars, but you got a trend line here now that you know is pretty good. It's been tested once, twice, 3 times, and notice how nothing's closing above that. And so this was probably worth And this is really a double top. During a pullback to the EMA, you see you got your one high, then you went lower, then you went up again, and then it sold off. So if you didn't do anything but let this bar finish and break lower, and then try to get, that's the way I entered this one. I entered with a limit order right there, and it just did get filled. It started down again, and you probably did not get a runner out of this one if you entered down here either. Because it's kind of choppy down through here. This was you know, how many points is that? 28. It's about a 4-point move, but if you didn't give your runners a little more room than break even, they didn't survive. And you notice that's why a lot of times you notice. Let me show you where these come back to. I'm trying to get this done early, but this is important stuff. So notice right here, your entry would have been 29 and a quarter, and look where that pullback came back to, 29 and a quarter, exactly. Just enough to take those stops out, and then look what happened, boom. And this entry would have entered at 25. Notice where that pullback came to, exactly 25, and it couldn't go any higher, and then it sold off again. Your entry on this one was 22 and a quarter. That one would have survived that time, but they ended up getting you right here, and they ended up even getting one more right there. And let's just look at some more down through here. Most of these all were good in the afternoon. This one probably didn't. Your entry was 12 and a quarter. And this one came back to, yeah, this one, these would have been, this one was good too. I didn't take this trade. I wasn't trading by the end. I did take this one right here. But I wasn't trading when this one triggered down here. But it's set up, and it's a good setup, so I circled it. Well, let's go back and talk about them real quick. But anyway, hopefully you see that. And so a lot of times, the reason I point that out is a lot of times you're better off to take a tick or two out of your profits from your scalp and apply them to your stop. So in other words, if you get stopped out, you may not make very much money, but you give yourself a better chance to make money on runners. So it's a good thing to do on trend days when the market's trending. And we've been getting a lot of trending lately. You know, we're trending up really well here, and we're trending down really well here. So on trend days, you know, once you go into this mess, then maybe you don't do that. But as long as you're trending like this, then you give it a little bit more room, and you'll probably get more runners out of it if you're entering at the right places. So just keep that in mind. But let's talk about the trades here and wrap this one up. Again, I talked about your first entry there. This is another pullback to the EMA, the trend line. It's a breakout pullback long from this little double short from this little double bottom. There's a double bottom right across there, and you can see that. We broke lower. This is the pullback. Great place to go short. And, you know, it was off to the races. They pulled back momentarily there and got those stops, though, and then it took on off again. We talked about that entry. There are overlapping. If you didn't, I probably should have made this one green. I'm just going to go ahead and change it. If you didn't take that one, you know, it's a little more risky, and sometimes it's better off to stay away from those. And you see you got another chance to enter, not much different anyway. But it's there because it came off that trend line, and it's two legs up, and it's actually a double top there with matching highs. That's good enough reason to take that trade. The trend is down. So, you know, it's good enough reason to take that trade if you took it. But because of the overlap, you know, those 1, 2, 3 bars, it's a little suspect. This one, a clear two legs back. And again, there's some overlap, but this one is different. You had all these matching highs. You ticked one tick higher there. And I actually entered this on a limit order right there because that one tick got the trend line, the EMA, and then it turned down. I got a little nervous when that happened, but it gave you another chance to enter right there on a second entry short. And you can see that one leg back, pull one leg up, pull back, second leg up, and then a second entry short right there, and it was heading lower again. And this is the first time it touched you really wanted to stay with this one until it touches the trend channel. And if you had runners that survived, that's where you want to exit, right down here. And then there goes your pullback. But another great entry right here. And this one sold off really strongly, really quick, but it quickly found support here. And then we pulled back and made another leg down. And look how choppy that leg is. Everybody was looking for the reversal now, but obviously there was a lot of selling to be done. And this was probably the best long right here if you wanted to go long, because you could get in real close to these lows after two legs down and a trend line break. And this one shot up fairly quickly. Wouldn't have got anything but a scalp, but that's all you're going to get in a trading range like that. This was another good short. There's some longs in here. I didn't mark them. They're too risky, and I didn't mark that one. They're too risky unless you really know what you're doing. There's another short right here, and notice that it's one tick higher than those two matching highs, trapped everybody and turned back down. Those are great setups. Again, if you made this one down, your runners were probably, depending on where you went short here. If you went short, let me show you. Let me make this a little bigger. If you were brave enough to go short below that doji, then your runners would have survived here. Just barely, but they would have. But if you waited below the red bar, you would have gone short right there, and look how that pulled back and got you. So you wouldn't have survived. So, you know, there's rewards for being more aggressive sometimes. And, you know, even once I saw this bouncing in here, I'll just be honest, I went short here. My runner survived, but when we ended in these dojis, I got nervous and went ahead and closed them because I thought it was gonna come back and I was gonna get stopped out anyway, and that was just, I should have followed the rules and stayed with it because I would have gotten more out of it. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. You did have a chance to enter right here to go short, but this was really risky. We weren't sure about this trend line at this point. That was the first touch of it. So it was a little suspect. There's not much room to scalp out right there. It's all this overlap. Normally you'd be better off to wait on a breakout pullback, and it just never happened. I mean, the market just was extremely weak right there. And generally here you would want to wait for prices to come back to the EMA or the trend line, but it was just too weak. It couldn't get back. But notice you got a double top here. You ticked one tick higher, and you couldn't go another tick higher than that. So that's a failed breakout. It's a second. Here's your first entry short. Let me get this out of the way. So it's a second entry short. You got a bearish bar in your direction, and man, it was off to the races again. And any runners were safe off of that, and you could have ridden this all the way down to where your target was, which was, I think it was right in here somewhere. And it was just a great setup. Then you had another one right here. You got one leg back, pull back, a second leg up, and you got a double top right there, right off. Look at that turn down, right off that trend. Everybody was waiting for it to touch that trend channel line or that trend line, and as soon as it did, it turned down. The best place to go short was right below this bar because it went higher first, so it's a trap. And so that's where the stops are going to start right there. And but if you didn't go short right there, you should have definitely gone short below that one. And you can see it took a little minute to work out, but there it's all these a lot of people just drop a limit order in there, and they're trying to drive the market back to catch those limit orders, and every time it hits them, it drives it down again. And they finally, the buyers give up, and it drifts on down again. So there's another entry right here, but it's way too late. It's almost, it's 2:40 Central Standard Time. So, only 15 or, probably at 2:40, I guess there's about 30 minutes left in the trading day, but it's just not worth entering there. But this is really a repeat pattern of this right here. If you took it, it was okay. It still met our rules, but I don't really like to enter after noon time. I like to be done by noon, to be honest. But my drop dead time that I think is wise is don't ever enter after 2:30. But I'll be honest with you, if you enter much after, if you enter after 2 o'clock, it's really getting risky, because if you're wrong, you don't have time to make it up. If you enter in the morning and you make a mistake and you get on the wrong side, you got plenty of time to make that up, but you don't if you make a mistake late in the afternoon. And I will say this too, the morning is where most of your movement's usually at, and You know, there's not as much movement. Usually you don't get this kind of nice movement late in the afternoon. Here's yesterday. Look what all the movement was in the morning, and look what happened all day, the rest of the day, nothing. So after 9:30, there was not much going on unless you were buying the highs and lows of that trading range. So, and you're not going to get these big runners, and you're not going to get the big movement. So, and you'll notice that on most days, and this was a unique day, especially for a Friday. And Fridays do that sometimes. You know, a lot of times a Friday will look like this all day right in here. But then sometimes on Friday you get these kind of moves like this. So it was, you know, you just never know. And if you take the day off, it'll look like this. And if you come in and work Friday, it'll look like this all day. So you can never guess it. You know, whatever you, if you try to pick and choose, it never works out. So you show up, you do it, you know, you go with what's there, and that's all you can do each day. So, but hopefully all that makes sense. Pretty, like I said, pretty standard day. There's a few trades in here. You know, this one might have even been green because we didn't get back to the trend line, and a lot of times that'll get you stuck. But you had the double top with the trap, so, and the market was really weak right there, and then you got to be thinking we're going to get another leg down, at least probably try to be equal to that, and it went much further than that. But I think that's just because the market was so weak today, and it's Friday. So, but anyway, I'm going to wrap it up. Hopefully you had a good trading day. Hopefully you had a great trading week, and if not, you got next week to get back to work on it, and that's how you get better. You take the trades every day. Don't worry if you're wrong or right. If you're not profitable, you're sim trading anyway, and if you're not profitable and you're not sim trading, well, I can just tell you what you're going to do. You're going to donate your money to somebody else, and you know, I don't have any qualms or hesitations about telling you that because I know that without a doubt. If you're not profitable consistently every single day, most days, and you're trading live, you're just donating your hard-earned money to somebody else. Don't do it. Get on the simulator. When you can make money every day on the simulator for, and I'm not talking about for a week or two, I'm talking about for several months, then you're ready to give it a shot with live money. And even then, you're probably going to have some lapses, and you're going to get the mental part. But you know, make sure you can do it on the simulator at least before you go live. That's the best advice you'll ever get as a trader, and I promise you it's good advice. I don't care how smart you think you are. I don't care how good a trader you think you are. If you can't make money on the simulator, you will not make money trading live. So, and it's a hard profession, and it's not easy to break into. It takes study. So take the trades every day on the simulator. Don't worry if you're right or wrong. Do the study at the end of the day. Figure out why you were right when you're right. Figure out why you're wrong when you're wrong, and try to correct that and do better next time. And each day you'll notice you start to get a little better, and you'll get a little better, and you'll get a little better, and then all of a sudden you'll start making money. And that's how you do it. So I'm done. It's Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com. We'll see you next.